Hello everyone, my name is David Kraft and I am a musician and music scholar. What I'm going to do today is talk about why I hate the Beatles, and this is again like my Why I Hate Elvis podcast, or whatever you want to call it. These are always my opinions, which can be challenged. One of the main reasons why I've decided to do this recording is because I am bored of this topic, and I seem to be repeating myself again and again when talking to people. Which is ironic, really, because the music that we hear nowadays on the radio is repeated again and again and again. And what I'm trying to do today is to help educate people about getting out there and buying some records, buying some music that is a bit interesting, a bit different, rather than just listening to the same music over and over and over again at parties and wherever we go. We are, many of us, lazy about listening to new music. And this is the problem I have with the Beatles. I've got a number of Beatles records at home, and I don't listen to them anymore because I don't need to, because it's everywhere. And actually, my problem isn't specifically to do with the Beatles. Some of the music is inventive, and I used to enjoy listening to it. My problem is that when we mention the 60s, everyone says the Beatles, and that's the end of the topic. People were lazy about talking about the 60s. People were lazy about listening to other music that was around at the time. And it drives me up the wall. The other thing I hate about the Beatles is the fact that they play rock and roll like white men. I know they're white, they're from Liverpool, but they're played they don't play rock and roll. It should be played, which is a black style of music. It should be angry and aggressive and sharp, and it isn't. And also they're poor musicians. The Beatles, and I hate the Beatles badge here. You see them playing the piano. They're really poor at playing the piano. It was their manager that did a lot of the inventive stuff, and they seem to have monopolised the music scene. I know there are lots of other bands and disco bands and rap bands and so forth, but they have monopolised the music scene for 6 centuries, which is ridiculous, considering there's so many other bands that did a lot of great stuff in the 60s. So they are a poor white boy rock and roll band who did some inventive stuff in the 60s and have monopolised the music scene and earned huge amounts of money for it, which I think is very unfair, considering there's so many other bands. I'm going to play you now Liz or Willie John. The reason why I've chosen this song is because this came out in 1960, and things could have been so different if the Beatles hadn't interfered in 1962 and monopolised the whole of the music scene. This is it. This is an original recording from 1960. Rhythm and blues bass. And it's a great sound. There are all sorts of other bands that have been forgotten now. And it's an exhaustive list, of bands that no one's ever heard of now. Now, some of these bands that I've listed here, some people have heard of, but most of them, no one listens to. And I recommend that you listen to them. If you're interested in beat music or you're interested in soul, there's such a rich selection of music in the 60s. And here's some examples, just a few examples, and then there are thousands of them. But these are some of the bands that I listened to in the 60s. The Fleur-de-Lis, so they did a version of Circles, which very few people listen to nowadays. The Beau Brummels. The Clique had a hit in the 60s, She Ain't No Good. The Sonics and the Mummies. The American Birds and the English Birds. Little John, Just Wait and See. The Small Faces I hardly ever listen to anymore because the Beatles have taken over that. The Litter, garage band. The Jades from Fort Worth, garage band. The Dirty Words, another garage band. Randy LV and the Green Fuzz. The Standells, they had a hit with Dirty Water. Who listens to that nowadays? Love, Arthur Lee and Love. Vernon Harrell. Hank Marr. Herb Hardesty. The Page Boys. Little Willie John, which you're listening to now. Little Johnny Taylor. Sunnyland Slim. Neil Johnson. The Seeds. Oh, I've mentioned the Seeds. Booker T and the MGs. Googie Rene. Lick Ray. The Trashmen. The Outcasts. Two garage punk bands. Johnny Kidd and the Pirates. Los Cayennes. Jacques Dutronc. The Easy Beats. Oh, some people know the Easy Beats. Paul Revere and the Raiders. Question Mark and the Mysterians. The Chocolate Watch Band. The Yardbirds. Almost forgotten now. Tony Jackson. And then, of course, all the soul artists of the time that are rarely played anymore. So my advice to you is to really go out there and listen. Now, obviously, I'm maybe talking to the converted here. Some of you listen to this video are already interested in this, and I apologise. It's kind of like talking to a class who have turned up and ranting and raving because there's hardly anyone's turned up, but you're talking to the people that are actually there. But this is my rant over. It upsets me that people are so pedestrian with their musical attitudes, and I'm hoping that things might change by putting some of these videos in place. Okay, well, that's all from me. I'm David Kraft. I'm a musician, and thanks very much for listening and listening to this rant. I hope to see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.